We are back with the program. Once again, it's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. Well, it's that time again. We are continuing our top five of 2018. So many great thoughts already from some great people all around the world. But I had to get this guy on and make sure he lets us know what his top five of 2018 is. He is the mastermind behind the ESO Network. You got to check it out today at ESO Network and ESOpodcast.com. All the great shows that are attached, including all the ones that he's a part of and been doing for so many years, including the ESO podcast, ESO Who, ESO, just so many other ESO podcasts that he's related to, all the special events that they're a part of, and everything going on in pop culture. He always has a hand in knowing about, talking about, and reporting on, along with all the other great podcasts on his network, along with all of his good friends as well that help him out. It is also a good friend of mine and a guy that I just wished happy holidays to. It is Mike Faber. What's going on, my
Hey,
friend?
Gerald. Thank you. Thank you for having me back on the show. I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Although our selections for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of deviated from what both you and I, and also, Kevin from the Flopcast kind of differed from all of our choices.
Oh, very much so. But they're all good bands that get in there, and whoever's in there, they are a diverse crowd this year. You got the best of punk rock, you got the best of new wave, you got more of a hair metal band, but you also had a diva and Stevie Nicks, and you know you also had Janet Jackson. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty diverse list indeed. Although I think LL Cool J and Kraftwerk, I think, are trying for that Susan Lucci Award, as far as to see how many nominations they can get without being inducted in. So looks like they're on their way.
Oh, exactly. Usually it's, usually, as they like to say, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
This is true. Definitely in her case, it was for many. Well, I think well over a dozen, if I'm not mistaken. But need I digress? But
Oh, of course. I do understand. They haven't nominated me for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet either, so it's okay.
that's true. That's true. But we got to go for you. We got to put in your name for the Podcasting Hall of Fame. How about that? When they finally come
I'm
out with
old enough to be, and I've been doing this long enough. Maybe you're right.
exactly, exactly. Well, you're here to share your top five in 2018. So many diverse topics, answers, lists that have come up already. I know yours is going to be just as awesome. So, Mike, you got to share with me and the listeners out there exactly what is your top five in 2018.
Okay, I'm gonna have to start on a negative note for my five, and I'm gonna go from five down to one. So the first one was kind of a reality check, happened in August of 2018 with the shooting at the John Madden tournament in Jacksonville. We've always thought, the geek community was always very solid. And I do count video games as a geek community. And even though it's a sports ball, event, and a lot of the geeks that I know joke about, oh, you like sports or whatever, even if it's sports or video games or whatever, this shooting at in Jacksonville was just completely senseless. And it was horrible, just to, you know, see what happened. And it was just kind of really scary in a lot of ways, showing that something like this could happen eventually at San Diego or Dragon Con or New York Comic Con. We've been very lucky. And Dragon Con was a week after this event, and the police presence at Dragon Con was like none I've ever seen before. So it was just pretty amazing.
Well, I want to say this. We are recording this a day before a charity event, the holiday game event at Retro City Games, which we're doing video game tournaments in Fortnite, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, and Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And in the past years, we would just say, hey, we're going to have a great time, no problems, nothing at all. Well, I had to make sure it outlined the rules and whatnot because it is now in the forefront of my mind because we've actually done a charity fundraiser for the victims of Jacksonville at Retro City Games before. This is going to be even bigger with more people coming in that are not regulars of the store, not regulars as part of the community that's usually there. So we are a little bit more concerned, and it does bring that to our attention. What happened in Jacksonville can happen anywhere. So it is a little bit on the forefront of our mind exactly when we do these type of events, and especially when you go to a con of any size, of any length, and it's out there, and it's just unfortunate that it's infringed on our geek culture.
Exactly. And, I'm a huge music fan, as you know, because we talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and such. And look what happened out there in Vegas last year, with the shooting. Was it the Mirage? I think was
No, it was
no,
actually across the street from the Mandalay Bay. It was
that's right.
facility. In fact, it was used in the past for American Ninja Warrior in the past, among other festivities that were there. And unfortunately, it was a terrible day here in Las Vegas. Same thing could be said in Great Britain last year with Ariana Grande and her concert, where there's a bomb and whatnot. It's just a crazy world we live in right now. It's just so different from the one you and I both were part of so many years back.
Exactly. But one more negative that I'm going to bring up for my next one, number 4, and it's not really a negative because it had a positive outcome, was Kevin Smith's heart attack. And, Kevin Smith is huge in the geek community. He does now a podcast called Fat Man Beyond because of his heart attack, he lost almost 100 pounds completely. And he's, a testament. He was doing a live show. He felt a pressure on his chest before he went to the second set. He said, I need to get to the hospital. And he had a heart attack, what they call, now they call it the widowmaker. Not many people survive what he had. And it's just amazing that we still have Kevin Smith to enjoy. And, it's pretty darn awesome. And, out of something bad, this is good because for myself, even, it brought to attention, I'm not Kevin Smith size by any means, weight wise, but even someone like my weight, I'm 20 pounds overweight or something, thought, I got to take care of myself. I can't keep on enjoying, the lifestyle I'm leading. 50 is pushing real close. And, I've got to, be around for at least another 100 years or so. So, it makes sense.
Same here. It does. It was an eye opener, and it does make you want to make lifestyle changes. For me, it actually took a look at what exactly I was doing with my life, and I had to get off as far as the caffeinated drinks. I wanted to go ahead and change my eating habits, and it does make you think as far as if it can happen to him, it could certainly happen to anyone else.
Exactly. And you just got to be very, very careful with that kind of stuff. So, that was my next one, my number 4. Number 3 has to be Infinity Wars. Definitely has to be Infinity War. The
You mean that
biggest
little indie
movie.
movie?
Yeah,
That
that
little
little
indie
movie
movie?
that maybe nobody ever mentions or anything. You know, the movie that just disappeared with a snap, just like that. And it was geekdom from the very beginning to the very end, seeing that up there and to see the combination of 10 years of Marvel movies all combined with almost every character they had from all the different movies, and it was just breathtaking. And I everyone had their oh my god moment when Thanos snapped his fingers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. So for me, it was just awesome.
My co-host Josh Peterson talked about how the critic culture that we have in our society today sometimes can get too petty. One of those things I actually observed earlier this week when it came to Variety, I believe it was, or Hollywood Reporter, one of those, talking about the worst movies of 2018, and they specifically mentioned at the top of their list Infinity War because, and not because of the fact that the movie might have been bad or really anything outlined in the paragraph didn't really pertain to anything pointedly bad about the movie because it's actually one of my top 10 favorite movies that's out there this year. and I think it's a well-made movie, by the way. But this critic was pointing out that it was a collective groan from him who's had to endure the 10 years of Marvel superhero movies that are out there, which for him was like, I guess I could compare it to, and I'm paraphrasing, scratching on a chalkboard, which for us is just like heaven because, as part of the geekdom that's out there and people who love pop culture, this is everything to us. This was a culmination of an event that I believe in every bit of my mind and so many others like me and you paid off and paid off in spades.
Oh, exactly. And, that gets into my number 2 a little bit because my number 2, of course, is the passing of Stan Lee. And, it wasn't a surprise. Stan was 95, almost 96. And that's just amazing that we were, given that kind of gift to have him for so long. A true ambassador to the industry. You could be a comic fan, you could be a movie fan, but you knew who Stan Lee was. And, every Marvel movie you can count on a cameo by Stan Lee somewhere. And Stan, ever since I was a little kid, he was the ambassador for comic books. He was, he did Stan's soapbox. He did, he was Stan the Man, the editor. He was Stan the Man, the writer. He's the reason I got into comics. The first thing I even remember reading was Origins of Marvel Comics by Stan Lee. And, just reading the Amazing Fantasy 15, Fantastic Four #1, X-Men #1, Doctor Strange, Captain America. You can keep on going. And Stan was there. And Stan was the person to bring this all out. Stan, pretty much is the Mark Twain of our generation. And, probably he created a full length set of characters who are basically now the Greek mythology of a modern era. And it's pretty darn amazing when you think about everything this one man did. Yes, he had help. He had artists and he had other writers helping him out and such, but this is, this is little Stanley who grew up in Brooklyn and, basically wanted to be, he had an imagination and, finally decided I'm going to, in the early 1960s, I'm going to write comic books full time. So it was just amazing to think about. But the thing that bothers me about it and leads back into what we were talking before are these critics and such. People like Bill Maher or um, other actors like who basically were like poo-pooing, oh, the problem with society is brought on by Stan Lee because he created these comic books that or movies that created, really, lazy, fat, ugly, unmotivated people, and it's bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if I could curse on the site or anything, but
That's okay. I'll bleep it out.
okay. But it's just true because what they say, the way they're saying it is, I'm a successful person. I read comics and I'm very motivated to do stuff in life. And, I've been reading comics since I was 4 years old. I also read literature. I'm also a scholar at religious studies. And I also, know probably more about certain things than he does or some of these people do. Don't judge a book by its cover. These people who are claiming, oh, Stanley wasn't anything. That's just a load of crud. And, I just, it pisses me off when I heard that. And I like Bill Maher. I really do. And, but Bill Maher is just one person and he's entitled to his opinion, even if I don't agree with it. It's the same thing, when other people talk about, how it's a kiddie thing and, how comic books were for little kids. I used to own a comic shop, folks. I also used to own a movie theater and it did really well for a while. And it's just, that was my income. That was what brought me in, and made me happy for quite a long time. It's just, depending what you're into, that's cool. Some people like sports, some people like art. We do a segment on our show called The Geek Seat. And when people come to me and say, "Hey, I'm not really a geek, I don't read comics or watch sci-fi." And it's like, are you a fan of art? Are you a fan of music? Are you a fan of literature? Are you a fan of sports? You could be a geek about anything. And that's what's the wonderful thing about it. And Stan brought that out for everybody in their own way. And Stan Lee will be remembered in a very positive way.
I have been roasted in that geek seat on my initial entry into the ESO network, so I do know how it is. And I was glad that according to you guys out there, that I passed with flying colors. So it's great that I was able to go ahead and continue on with the network, because I know that was a do or die
Mm.
situation in the geek seat right there. But Stan
Well,
Lee's
you
legacy.
you do know there are people still stuck in the geek seat because they haven't earned our respect yet. So you
Oh,
have
oh,
something you have something going for you right there, my friend.
thank you, thank you. I'm just glad to be out of the geek seat and be able to go ahead and listen to your shows as you continue to roast others in that geek seat. But I will say this, when it comes to Stan Lee's legacy, so many people over the past few months, not only upon his death, but just before and whatnot in recent years, have tried to go ahead and peck at the legacy from family members that were accused of wrongdoing as far as the way he was being treated, to other individuals outside of the realm, to all the other individuals looking to take credit and their share of the pie as far as what his actual creations were, and also take shots at him for wanting the spotlight and wanting to embrace the spotlight and embrace all the fans out there. You know what? I think that they all want to go ahead and take shots at him and take parts of those legacy, because it is such a huge legacy that he left us in this world. And the fact is, so many of us out there would not even entertain any type of realm within the comic book era, because of the fact that if he wasn't there promoting it, no, so many of us would not know anything about comic books, or would not even want to get involved with it. And it's due to his efforts in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and whatnot, that allowed the not only Marvel to prosper eventually. I know they went through some rough times, but to be able to have the comic book superhero movies that we have today. And so much credit should be given to him and his legacy. No matter how many people try to pick at it, unfortunately, it's still a humongous legacy that will definitely live on for some time to come.
Exactly. So, yeah, I definitely think it was just amazing. Stan is Stan. And it's weird that next year when I go to Dragon Con, he won't be there and such. It was just, Stan was a staple and he will be missed. I sadly enough never got to meet the man personally, but I'm not one of those people who always wants their picture taken with celebrities or get autographs and such. So, but I would have loved to just pick his mind for an hour. I would have been in awe, type thing. So it's pretty darn awesome with that. All right. Number one. This was a tough one for me, actually, because there is so much cool stuff going on in, everything to see in between the stuff that Netflix is doing with the last of the Marvel shows, what DC is starting to do with Titans, and what they are doing with the stuff on the CW, or but for me, truthfully, and it was had to be seeing Freddie Mercury up on film and watching Bohemian Rhapsody and having almost the full 20-minute performance of Live Aid up at the end of the film was true bliss for me. It was my number one geek out moment, if you want to put it that way, for for this year. Just Remy Malek, who I'd never had heard of before ever, and who's this guy who's going to be playing Freddy, and oh look, he has Freddy's teeth. I wonder if that's going to get a co-star role for it. And but it was just amazing and how they captured the movie. I walked out of the movie, truthfully though, feeling a little like What did I like it? Did I not? But just when I started thinking about how awesome it was, it grew on me, and it has quickly become my favorite movie of the year. So that had to be my number one spot. I liked it even more than Infinity Wars, folks. So
Wow, that's something indeed, but it was powered by an award nominating performance for Remy Malek, who's garnering a lot of acclaim for the performance. The movie itself has done gangbusters not only here in the United States but abroad as well. So it looks like it was a successful movie overall. When it was looking at times like it wasn't even going to get into production because there were issues. Sacha Baron Cohen was at one time was tied into it. Then there were other production issues, but finally it got made. Finally got put out there, and for better for worse, from some people that are out there that didn't like it. There are many others that did, and a lot of it is driven by the amazing performance by Rami Malek in the lead role as Freddie Mercury. I agree with you that his performance there looks like it's outstanding and it's something that's going to drive the movie forward to even more success when it hits home video because it's almost ending its run theatrically, but I'll tell you what, nobody can say that it wasn't a success overall because it definitely enlightened a lot of people and it definitely brought out another revival of Queen and their music because Bohemian Rhapsody actually hit the charts once again, which is amazing. It's, I think, the third time that it's done that. So I'll tell you what, it's just a great job by Remy Malek and everyone involved as far as Bohemian Rhapsody. And I can see why you made it number one on your list.
exactly, and it just was truly amazing to see. And a lot of it was works of fiction, or the stories are based on true facts, but might have been changed for to protect the innocent. So yeah, there was things that have changed for the movie, but there's plenty of documentaries out there, or there's books talking about what really happened, but it was still entertaining, and that's what all that counts. That's my list, my friends.
That is the list, once again, of Mike Faber from the ESO Network. You got to check out his ESO podcast, his ESO Doctor Who podcast, and so many others on the ESO Network. But I got to ask you one last question, my friend. Why do people need to tune in to all the great things at the ESO Network?
Because it's your network for all things geek. How's that? Nice, short, and sweet.
I was just going to say the same thing. I was expecting a little bit more detailed because actually, if everybody wants to hear the long version of that instead of the cliff notes, they got to go and check out our conversation with me, Kevin, and him right there. Him meaning Mike Faber on one of our previous episodes when we were talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on any one of our channels. In fact, do it on the ESO Network and check that out in the backlogs, in the archives, because it was actually two great conversations we had. And he goes into detail exactly everything why you need to check out the ESOpodcast.com that's out there. All the great shows, including ours. We are so honored and blessed to be a part of your network. Just cannot thank you enough for not only taking the time, for allowing us on the show, allowing us on the network, but also taking the time to share your top five on the show with us as well.
It's my pleasure to always have you guys involved. You guys are a fantastic part of our network, and we love how you guys are growing and evolving. It's a great show.
We're trying. We're trying. Like I said, a lot of it is in part to our relationship with the ESO Network. We cannot thank you enough for being part of it. And again, happy holidays to you and the family, everyone involved with the ESO Network. And again, so great to have you a part of the
Thank,
pop. Oh,
oh,
of the pop.
thank
Oh,
you.
no worries. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Do your tag. Go for it.
Okay, of the pop culture cosmos.